Thank you guys all for coming. Just to introduce us a bit, we're from the Prison Mathematics Project. We pair incarcerated people with kind of mathematically adept mentors, and kind of use mathematics as a vehicle to help people with their rehabilitation, help ease their reentry back into the outside world, and kind of try to have our mentors develop a real kind of interpersonal connection with people that we have found to be very, very powerful. Um, and so we're going to share a bit about kind of the projects we have going on, and then we're going to talk more generally about the goals and the outcomes of kind of what we do. So I'm Ben Jeffers. I'm the executive director of the PMP, and then we also have Rory and Stephanie. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I lead MathPaks, like our curriculum development project.
I can't hear you, Rory.
He was like very glitchy before.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe you can just try leaving and rejoining, maybe. And we can get started since Rory will be speaking third anyway. I can introduce him real quick. Um, Rory was a former participant in the PNP, and he was recently released last year and has been helping us out and doing a lot of great work as well. And so he'll be talking a bit about kind of the participant experience and what can be gained from our project. Cool. So Stephanie and I are going to talk about two current projects we have going on. So kind of the first project we have going on is what we call our PMP console. And kind of the goal of this is to give incarcerated people a tool to be able to learn how to code while in prison, because most of them don't, what's common in prisons now is people have access to kind of tablets. So, like maybe similar to an iPad mini. And so we're trying to develop an app that can go on there that can let them learn how to code. And the real challenge with this is getting it approved by prisons. But that's kind of what we're working on. Here's a little video one of our developers shared. So kind of the idea of this is just to have, super basic plain text editor. There's a lot of security requirements. And so it'll be kind of completely offline, basically just a compiler with a text editor and hopefully some educational material, which is being shown here. And so, kind of the whole goal is to give people more opportunities, more tools to learn, more chances to kind of, and maybe improve their skill set for when they get out, to give them more options, because that's really our goal, is to kind of reduce recidivism, the rate that people end up back in prison after they're released, and anything we can do to go towards that, helping their education can go a really long way. And so we're currently developing this. We're starting to talk with different tablet makers about the possibility of getting this approved and getting it in the hands of incarcerated people. And so we're still in the beginning stages. We had built there's another version of this that we played around with as well, because a lot of incarcerated people have access to some form of email. So the way the other version works is they would just send their code in an email, and then we would scrape it, run it, and then send it back. So it was trying to simulate a compiler for them when they didn't have one. But there's definitely some challenges with this, mostly being the cost, because you have to pay, 25, 30 cents for each email, which can really add up when you're making, 50 cents an hour. So this is kind of the solution to make a cheaper, more readily available version. And so still very much in the beginning stages. We're playing around and seeing what works, what people are receptive to, and just trying to get something that can be available to as many people as possible. But yeah, so that's the PMP console. And I'll hand it over to Stephanie to talk about MathPaks now.
Hey. Hi again. I'm Stephanie. I've been leading MathPaks since like last spring. And I have some slides I'm going to share with you about it. Here. Okay. So MathPaks is like our curriculum and content development project. We're working on creating like an undergraduate mathematics major course sequence for our participants. So this is our mission. I'll read it. The current aim of MathPaks, again, is create an undergraduate level curriculum for distribution to PMB participants engaged in self-study. Ideally, these packs can be further utilized in mentorship communications to prompt further mathematical discussions and discovery. So this is sort of our origin story. So our founder, Christopher Havens, who's not here with us today, but he was inspired to start MathPaks based on his own educational experience on the inside. I have a quote here from the email archives. It's basically about how he met this guy named Mr. G, which I suspect stands for Mr. Good Guy, but I don't really know. He would slide these little packets of math under his door, which allowed Christopher to discover the beauty and transformative power of math. And eventually he even went on to do research in math and discovered a new constant, the South constant. Sorry, my computer's slow. Sometimes the images don't load. But okay, it's just being really slow. Sorry. They're just taking their time. Okay. Yeah, so as far as the current MathPaks go, each MathPaks is self-contained, so it's 30 pages. It's supposed to be suitable to be used by yourself and by itself as a self-learner. So kind of each packet is a chapter of a book almost. On the volunteer side of things, we usually have a handful or so of volunteers collaborating on a pack at each time, either via LaTeX on Overleaf or just Google Doc if people aren't too familiar with LaTeX. I don't know why they're not loading, but maybe we'll go back to that later. So in the past semester, we've pretty much finished free algebra through algebra. We've done a little bit of trig, but we're mostly focusing on creating calculus content right now. So that's kind of what we're asking for help for if anyone wants to volunteer with us with MathPaks. And even after calculus, we hope to move on to even more challenging content. And if you're interested in helping out with the PMP or anything, you can send us an email, you can take a look at our website, and we even have a Twitter now. Rory.
Oh, I'm up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome guys. Thank you for coming to our show here. For me, I'm formerly incarcerated. I've been out about 3 months at this point. And I did 12 years in, and a lot of that was I was a 2-tour combat veteran. And I came home with a lot of internal trauma, and I didn't know how to deal with any of it. So that's how I landed in prison, was crossing a whole bunch of moral barriers that everybody in prison has that story. However, once you get there, then what? And for me, I was actually neighbors with Christopher for a number of years, and we're good friends. And he showed me this way that he was using to maintain his involvement in a community. And for him, it was the math community was that central piece. And he asked me if I wanted to get involved. And I said, hey, I'm not really a math guy. And he said, you don't need to be. We just need you to get involved right now. And I did. And there was some conversations about math initially because I've had two excellent mentors. The first one was a gentleman by the name of Cole, who he was working on his MD, and he had residency. So he's like, hey, I can't really help out anymore. But we had great conversations about especially about his studies in medicine and how the impact of, the human condition is. So that started off as like, that left a really good, positive thing in me that, hey, I'm having a conversation with somebody who's in this arena that is helping people, and it's very inspiring to me. So unfortunately, he had to bow out as my mentor. And then I got the next one is Ben. Ben Jeffers was my second mentor, and we started off with conversations around gerrymandering and some political stuff. It wasn't really heavy math, but there was math in it. And so I wasn't really, like I said, not a big math person, but I was wanting to pursue an education. So I went, I was in the prison, I was going to class. And then when I was decompressing about any of it, I would ask Ben about it. And we would talk about the things that, academically were important to me. And he was a great asset for that. Then we get into, by the time I started thinking about getting out of prison and how that was my life was going to look after 12 years of it. Ben was the guy that was helping me foster a plan to get back to school in the free world, which I'm starting again in the spring. So that the plan, when my initial involvement with the PNP, I wasn't a math guy. I'm not a math guy, but the idea of academic enrichment was so profound to me. And now that I'm out, continuing to foster these great relationships with Ben and so many of the other folks at the PNP, I kind of had a plan on what I wanted to do to help other people that are wanting to do the academic avenue for themselves upon release. And how can we use the PNP kind of as a vehicle to help foster that the way it was fostered for me? And so that's kind of where we're at now. As I sit today, I've been engaged in, I've got a great job. I'm engaged in civic issues surrounding legislation. And it's really profound. And it all goes back to the elements of the PNP that allowed me to belong somewhere.
What is your job?
Oh, I'm a paralegal consultant for Washington State Office of Public Defense. Yeah.
Very neat. How did you get training for that?
Lived experience.
Okay.
A lot of the in prisons, once you're convicted, that's it. That's kind of the end game. You can do some other fight for it, but there's not a lot where you get re-recognized. And so we kind of work on issues surrounding how do you get post-conviction relief? How do you get people involved back into, get them back into court, get them a second look, reclaim some part of their life that they might have lost.
Did you find that they were very eager to give you that position because of your lived experience, or did you have to kind of fight for it?
So certainly Washington State is kind of a very tolerant state in that regard. And there is quite a movement up here that where, you know, they really want people with lived experiences talking about the prison system.
Cool.
All right,
Yes,
Ben.
are there any other questions, or Rory, if you have something else you wanted to say?
No, I'm done, Ben.
Rory, I'm just interested in your whole story to the extent to which you want to share it. What
Yeah.
did you spent 12 years in prison then, you know, what was your time like? Was there growth? Did you have a sense that it wasn't time wasted, that you did different things than you would have done had you been on the
You know,
outside? How
there's-
did it change when you met Christopher and so on?
Yeah, you know, there was a point in, of course, obviously for me, it was when, as soon as I got arrested and the ball started rolling towards, hey, you lost control of your life. Once I got into prison, it was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, scrape and claw to make sure I reclaim it. Whatever the out of control thing was in my life, I need to reclaim all of those pieces. And Christopher was doing many of the same things in the same ways. So, you know, like the term water seeks its own level. You know, people that are like-minded kind of you know, congregate in prisons. And so I knew I was able to get a lot of the therapy, the treatment, the, you know, PTSD was, I was just ravaged by PTSD after 2 tours in Iraq. And Christopher, in his own story, has a pretty traumatic young adult life that led him into prison as well. So it was a great method to bounce off one another and then just become involved, because change needs to happen. Otherwise, it is wasted time.
So did you two ask to be put next to each other because
No,
you saw something common in each other, or is it that you happened to be next to each other and then you discovered there was a commonality?
yeah, the latter on that. Yeah, I met Christopher. We were wiping tables in the chow hall in 2014, and it was just a just an off chance meeting.
So if that's the case, do you think there's maybe lots of other people then as well that have the same mindset that you two have? That
Oh, absolutely, yes.
and
Absolutely.
are they finding avenues to grow and such? Maybe different from PMP, obviously, but are they finding avenues, or is it the exception to be able to find these kinds of avenues?
Well, it is the exception to find the avenues. Not to say that people don't want, but there's kind of this theory that out of 100% of people that are incarcerated, 15% will do absolutely nothing, given everything, every resource in the world. They'll do absolutely nothing to foster a better way of life. There's a top 15% that you can give them absolutely nothing, and they will do everything within themselves to make it happen. Then you've got the 70 in between that will sway one way or the other, depending on who's got the most influence around them. And guys like Christopher is one of those guys that can kind of generate that influence.
Yeah, we have, like, by far our most common place that people join the PMP from is Christopher's prison. Over, like, I don't know how many, maybe 30 or 40 throughout the life of the PMP have just come from being around Christopher and kind of his infectious energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says he's calling you later, Tim.
Oh, later tonight?
That's what he said.
Oh, Christopher, you're talking about.
Yeah, he saw our presentation was over, so he called me at like 1:45, and I'm like, no, we haven't been yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Christopher and I talk, I don't know, every few weeks, maybe on average, maybe once a month. it kind
Yeah,
of comes and goes.
he's basically checking up on everyone to see how this went.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting, Rory, to hear the 15, 15, 70, because those were the same numbers given to me by a student at Hope College where I taught for years. And that it's a religious school. And I was talking to him about, how many committed Christians are there at Hope College? And he was saying, well, there's probably about 15% that are just really committed and all this sort of thing. There's about 15% that want nothing to do with it. They're the partiers. And then there's 70% that are kind of in the middle. And it just makes me wonder, is that kind of a rule of thumb, maybe that given anything like that there's, the edges, if you just think about a bell-shaped curve, you got the two edges and you got the middle.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, so that 70%, they're the ones that need someone to come along and enthuse them. And
Absolutely.
mathematics can be one vehicle, but there must be other people who are willing to be enthused, but mathematics is not the thing to do it. It's going to be something else. Is that true?
And that is true. And there's the studies are in about what academics do to rehabilitation. There's school is to be educated is one of the biggest interventions on recidivism. And so just being able to stimulate your mind in a way that's pro-social and positive, whether it be mathematics or any other topic, is important.
And there's lots of other organizations kind of similar to us in different subjects. There's the Prison Journalism Project is kind of another big national one. There's a lot of different writing ones in different states. Like I'm in Oregon and there's a big kind of poetry writing.
Shakespeare Behind Bars is one.
Yeah, so
Wow.
there's a lot of other ones that are out there trying to do a similar thing of get people excited about something and interested in something like this.
Hi.
Yeah.
I think I was volunteering for a little bit with MathPaks at some point on a Discord and making some calculus things, and it was a lot of fun. My question is just like, can you give a general sense of where the PMP is and like where it's focused? Are you operating in which states? How many prisons?
Yeah.
Share. I'm just curious.
So part of kind of our participation is a little random. It's a lot of like, oh, maybe someone's, mom found us on Twitter or found us on Reddit and signed them up. Or, someone they heard from there. I try to keep data on like how our people heard. And a lot of it is just like, oh, I heard from another guy in my prison, or I heard from a teacher. So it's super random. I think we're definitely in over 30 states. But some of them are states where we have one or two people maybe. Our biggest are definitely Washington, and that's all due to Christopher pretty much. We have a lot in Texas. We have a lot in Michigan. We've started doing in-person events there. We did one last year, and Tim's actually leading one this year for Pi Day. So we have quite a few there, and we have some in New York. So it's very much all over. It's very random. We're trying to increase participation always. Trying to get more flyers in prisons, letting more people know, but it is difficult to kind of advertise to people inside and kind of get our program known. There's some prison resource lists we're on that go out to people with all sorts of different organizations, but it's difficult. We're also trying to make kind of an effort to target more women's prisons and get more women involved in the program as well. But it's also just kind of randomly, emailing whoever we can find from the prisons with our flyer and sign up forms and information about the program. So it's kind of a crapshoot.
What's the total number of?
Yeah. Right now we're at 230 participants.
Okay.
And then we've had maybe about 50 who have been involved at some point, and then, you know, a lot of people get released, or, you know, people move prisons all the time. Maybe they went into solitary confinement for a while and we lost contact with them. It's difficult logistically. But over the life of the program, we're nearing about 300. And we've had lots and lots of mentors sign up because it is easy to advertise to mentors. And so we've had almost 1,000 mentors sign up as well. So we have more mentors than quite a few more mentors than participants. So we've got a good community behind us. Any other questions in the last minute or two?
Yeah, is there any scheme for being able to publicize more in the prisons? Boy, you just wonder where are there people? There've got to be scores of them that are just sitting there that would be like Rory and like Christopher, that if they knew about it, they would jump. And it's just a matter of somehow letting them find out. There's no good way
For
to do
sure.
it.
So there, you know, there's a couple of things we're trying, but there's no, as far as I know, and maybe other people will have some good ideas I haven't thought of, but, you know, we're trying to get in better contact with like the Department of Corrections education offices, so that if the head of states know about us, because the ones where we are big in Washington and Illinois and Michigan, we do have good contacts in the DOC departments. So in the DOC, so we're trying to kind of get more of that going, because that's kind of how we can get in if we have the support of the state. But that is very difficult to get. It's kind of just been random. And so, you know, we're trying. Rory's actually working on getting us on. They kind of have a version of Canvas. Certain states that have one company that makes their tablets, they have a version of Canvas that you might use at college. And we're trying to get on that, because then we can access more people and more people can find out about us. Then we're working with another tablet maker, Origin, that's in more local jails, and we're trying to, you know, I'm working with Desmos as well and trying to get Desmos on there, trying to get kind of our programs on there, and trying to get more people who can find out about us and benefit from it. But it's difficult. It's one of the bigger challenges for sure.
Cool. Well, nice to meet you, Rory.
Yeah, you too.
Jesse
Finn.
and I will be continuing on in the next half hour here. So
Yeah, thank you guys all for coming. If you have any other questions, you can always email us. I'm just ben@pmathp.org, or you can find our email on our website as well.